Dear Venerable Sisters and Brothers, Dhamma friends, for the third day we are going to meet with this talk, 1 hour. May everyone take seat and give the consent with sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa cattaro me bhikkhave dhamma saddhammassa sammosaya antaradhanaya sangvattanti ti. Dear Venerable Sisters and Brothers, Dhamma friends, at the outset or at the beginning, the Buddha explained, according to his understanding, what is the welfare, what is the good for welfare of many, for the happiness of many people, and out of compassion of the world, for the good and welfare and the happiness of the Devata and humans. And the same in the same token, the same thing, it is good for oneself as well. So that is what the basic message of the Buddha. If you know who the Buddha is and what the teaching is, that is the root cause. If you have that kind of understanding, this is the well-being, welfare of the many, as well as the happiness, as well as for the compassion out of the world, for the well-being of the world, and devas and humans. And that is good for oneself also. So therefore we ourselves now dedicated to have that kind of an objectives as well as that kind of endeavorance or restraint. So then to facilitate it, the Buddha explained who is the Buddha is. That's the first day we took time. And he is a worthy person for anything, and likewise he is having so much of qualities. That is only we have to learn from the Buddha and what is the teaching of the Buddha. We have taken little time to explain it, and we are lucky. Sometimes we are born Buddhist or we accepted it, and that means we can follow the teaching of the Buddha as well as the Buddha. Still, even if we have that kind of a background, even if we have that kind of a atmosphere, still it can go wrong if you are not aware of the 4 aspects. So the Buddha is alarming us or advising us, take care about these things. Otherwise, even if you are endowed with this situation, even you are fortunate with this situation, may not leading to the desired goals. So out of these 4 aspects that where the Buddha is going to highlight, he says the teaching is badly acquired. Buddha is yes, teaching is yes, but individually if you are dukkahita, taken in the wrong way, as well as pariyapunanti dunnikhitanti, that means it's badly decoded it, because teaching itself may not be digestible, graspable. So we have to have language understanding, background understanding of the India and the Buddha, as well as what the lineage is. So if you are not well decoded or interpreted properly, still, even though you are lucky and even though endowed with, desired goal may not be happening. And details about the interpretation, when you apply into the day-to-day life, when you apply that to the community way or in an individual way, You must have detailed prescription. That also can go wrong. If it is so, even the blessing of the Buddha is there, even the teaching is there, you or your group may not be. So therefore, even we are there, we have to understand in the proper way, and that means interpreted in this good way, and acquire this for the liberation of yourself. Acquire it for the purification of yourself, not for the PhD, not for the diploma. So present day education system, not always Buddhist, of course, rarely only we have Buddhism as a subject. Even in Burma, it is not allowed to teach Buddhism. Because it's a army government, they say if the children going to learn Buddhism, they will rebel against the government. So in Sri Lanka, if you go and ask children, who is the Yasodhara is, who is the Siddhartha is, who is the Suddhodana king is, they fairly understand. But Burmese, no, never. It has been prohibited. So not to talk about the Western countries and non-Buddhist countries and others. So therefore it is purposefully or unknowingly not teaching. So therefore you interested, if you are interested in, for your benefit as well as for your purification as well as for your refinement, you have to understand the teaching is not to have a degree, but to have its pragmatic value. And someone to give it in such a pragmatic way, he or she must be practicing the Dhamma. But today, sorry to say, in the Buddhist countries like Sri Lanka, or sometimes even with the Buddhist majority in the universities and the school curriculum and the Pirivena curriculum and the Sunday schools, you study a little bit, then you have to understand why it is being so deprived of the practice. Why the country is becoming so immoral. Why the educated people rebelling and destroying the government properties. So that is the point one has to understand. Is it something wrong with my understanding, or someone has put in the wrong way as a hidden agenda, hidden curriculum? So I was not concerned about that because I am not an educationist. But when I was learning, specifically when I am traveling in other countries, some people told, Bhante, you are trying so hard, but cannot be. You can't gain results. Which is such a dragon against. And we can't see in the outlook also. Therefore, be careful, be aware. This is the way the world is being run. It is not with the Buddha as the prime. It is not with the teaching as the teaching. But so much of a wrong interpretation. So by your effort, you can't do it, but you can understand with what kind of atmosphere you are doing this sasana work. And don't let loose your practice also. You have to keep it. So I started little bit, but I found as far as you are mindful, as far as you accept the Buddha, as far as you are understanding the Dhamma as such, no one can harm you. I am assuring you. So therefore don't worry about what the other people are doing. Is it purposefully it is doing, or it is due to the common ignorance? So that is one point whereby the mindfulness give that kind of a credibility. When the Jnanaponika is telling, all the other qualities will be shaken off at your deathbed, but not the mindfulness. All the other qualities, all the abilities and all your developed things may be shaken at the danger, but the mindfulness never become incredible. It's such a credible thing. But it is not even in the Sri Lanka. It is not being taught in that way. When Jnanaponika's book is very common. It's more than 50 years old. But never in the school curriculum. So then, are we going to teach Buddha? Or are we going to teach the teaching of the Buddha? Or are we going to tell the correct perspective, the pragmatic perspective? Or what is the way to put into your day-to-day life? Is it purposefully taken off? Or is it common ignorance? You have 50-50. There are some people, those who are making this curriculum, making the syllabus and kind of thing, they take the Western standards or gross national production or individual per capita income, and we are being taught throughout to look into the national development and the individual development, not for the purification, not for the emancipation. So can individual, those who are taken the mindfulness, so to say, as the representative of the Buddha, representative of the Dhamma, while taking the mindfulness as such, can have this one-man army go against this grain? Can one go against the current? So that is a very good challenge. It's not impossible or impractical, possible, but it must be very, very strategic. It is not just like learning physics. It is not just like learning chemistry. It is not just like learning biology and zoology. But there you have to be very, very purposeful. So Buddha is giving 4 reasons. One thing is you have not well understood the teaching of the Buddha, or interpretation is wrong, or you have not taken detailed instructions. Even though you have the prescription, you have to understand this much of dose, with this much of intervals you have to take. If it is a high potent medicine, otherwise you are harming. It is called iatrogenic effect. And that is being expressed by Venerable Buddhaghosa in the Visuddhimagga, Bhesajya samuttita rogo via atikiccho. If you taken wrong, your new misunderstanding due to the mispractice is irreversible, cannot be cured, no treatments. So, whenever we go to the Satipasala, whenever we teaching the young children, and coming from different denominations, we can see how difficult for a Buddhist to get the correct perspective. That is very interesting. More you learn, more you bewildered. Because by practicing also there are some, on the way there are some vipassana upakilesa or perversions can happen. So when it is happening, vipassana is more risky than samatha. So therefore, one must go prepared. So therefore, details and your navigation is very, very interesting, important. And therefore, one has to understand while reading, while practicing, while discussing, you have to day by day do the fine-tuning. No one can assure you, now you are enough theory understanding, now you enough practice. No. Day by day, the fine-tuning is happening. So unlucky enough, the Buddha is not here. So what is the alternative? Alternative is, other practicing people must share each other. Once in a way, we have to consult the Tripitaka and be ready. So when such a challenging atmosphere is there, can a householder or can a commoner, a citizen from the zone, can navigate like that? Or was it easier while the Buddha was living in the India? Are we unlucky enough to not to have the direct confrontation of the Buddha? So more and more practice, more and more mindful school is happening, I find. There is no harm whether Buddha is demised and Maha Parinibbana happened and 2600 years gone, and the Sasana is, or dispensation is not dead and gone. And the atmosphere education and all the other sectors says it's dead and gone like. But I am telling the way I put that into practice and kind of thing, it's ever living. So you have to understand, our Dhamma understanding will say, put in single way, the understand discourses may be wrong. You have to refine it, that's it. I mean, it is not doing a permanent harm, unless otherwise grab hold, I am the correct, mine is the correct, others are wrong like, there won't be any recovery. So therefore, day by day, not only you are practicing, not only you are listening and studying, you have to understand, I have to refine it further and further. The fine-tuning must be there. And that is, in Vipassana, is more challenging. Because it is very dramatic, very eventful, and very fast. The progress is very, very fast. But Samatha is a kind of a guardian, Kamatha is a kind of a protection. It is giving the concentration and the mindfulness with the help of your primary object. It is given kind of a protection. With the protection it's easier. That's what the Alagatthupama Sutta, the Buddha says, when you are crossing a river, big one, better to have a raft. But it takes time. So therefore, if a life threat, without taking time for making a raft, you will just jump. There may be some crocodiles, there may be some air currents, but you are jumping. The jumping is called something like Vipassana, and making a raft, and with the help of the raft, if you are crossing with the full effort, is called Samatha and Vipassana. So the way I got it, no chance, because by that time I was about 26 and later it became 36 years, no chance, I will just jump into. So while jumping, everyone came and alarmed me. It's such a risky thing. Then I told, never mind. I am dealing with my own. So that I really appreciate, even after 30-35 years, I'm really appreciating that my taking that decision is correct. But even then, that 35 years is not a bonus. It is not the highway with the intercooler vehicle. Each day, each sitting, each teacher, always refining. So it's a lifelong experiment. And one thing is, day by day you are defining Buddha in a different ways. And the other thing is his teaching. So therefore, understanding the teaching in the correct way, the best thing is to understand, I am a beginner, my understanding is wrong, so therefore I am presenting mine, anyone can correct. That's a maximum even the Buddha to be, the Metteyya the Buddha can do. So therefore you can make a dispensation live, you can make the dispensation pragmatic by your vivid interview report. You have to just tell what is happening without interpretation, without your preconceived ideas, this is correct, this is wrong. Then the other people get blocked. Or otherwise you have to say, this is what happened, I have liking and I have disliking, this is what has happened. But you have to give the listener, our co-practitioners or the teacher, and you must be ready to accept it. So therefore, all understanding of who the Buddha is, what is the Dhamma is, may not be necessary if you are just believing the teacher and the practitioners. So that is why people are coming to these kind of places and practicing each other, so that we can have dialogue, we can have sharing, theoretically, very important. So therefore, understanding the proper way or misunderstanding it this way, it is still undecisive, undecided. It's a decisive. So you have to understand whatever I have learned may be wrong. So therefore, you are going forward. So that is the way your behavior towards Dhamma. Dhamma is a living thing. So whenever you are practicing, more you become natural, more you follow the natural law, less and less friction. More you become myself, you become egotistic and arrogant, you find Dhamma has to be changed because I can't follow it. That we simply put, it's arrogance. With Dhamma at the beginning we are a little arrogant because our body and the mind is not adjusted into that. But when you are practicing, when you are going, it's just like water. It will take whatever the shape of the vessel, and then you can adapt into that. So therefore, more you practice, you become like a child. Not childish, childlike. So it is a very good measurement for you to understand whether I am practicing, whether I am progressing. If you become arrogant, and then and there, no time gap, you can understand. But of course, for that you must have clear self-sympathy or emotional literacy with the others and with yourself. Then you can understand. Whenever you go going against the Dhamma, you feel friction, you feel suffering. But it does not always unfortunate thing. That very friction, that very suffering, you have to rethink and redirect it. And in Pottapada Sutta, the Buddha is explaining, as I briefed last time, when you renounce the household life and come to a place like this, and adopting into this life is not always a smooth thing. You find this is little harsh or little bit no comfort, just like at home. But still the Buddha says, you must have fair understanding of the samsaric suffering, existential suffering, and you take this as a measure. So even if it is a bitter medicine, you have to take it. And come into the center and getting registered and organized, and one day you will come and try to take your attention to your body. I mean, mindfulness on the breath or walking, whatever it may be, whatever the posture, then you find keeping the track with the body, getting away from the household affairs and the center affairs and come into the body itself is kind of a trap. Just like a wild buffalo taken to the village and tied into a pole. And you find it. And the Buddha says, yes, it is a suffering. I accept it. It appears like little hard, but this you have to make it a point to be happy. You have to make a point to be glad and point to understand this is what the mindfulness is. Whenever the mind becomes mindful on the body, it gives some kind of a friction. So therefore, if you know the art of how to make a gladness and the happiness and the mindfulness and the clear comprehension and the body, understanding of the body as a sign of peace, then the body is going to calm down. If you become agitated and kind of this is natural, then everything becomes agitated. So when the body becomes the breath body, if you are going to do only the breath, not the whole body, then again find refinement happening. And there it is very difficult. And if you are to see book of discrimination, the Patisambhida Magga, the Venerable Sariputta says, whenever you are focusing the attention or you are going to try to focus the attention the forthcoming in-breath, if the mind is going to think about the out-breath, there may be jerks, there may be violations, there may be shakes. Injati, kampati, chalati. And he gives each and every mistake can happen when you are going to focus in the in-breath. Out-breath can be a distraction. Breath, instead of the breath, another object happens, a distraction. Sound happens, a distraction. So he gives without any loophole. Injati, kampati, chalati. So therefore mind and the body becomes shaken with the slightest thing, as if you are in a tightrope walking, and when you are balancing, if someone is touched the rope, your whole body will be shaken. Imagine a spider in the spider net. Anything come and touch this net, it can understand, it can read which section, which direction, what kind of animal. So likewise your sensitivity, your vigilance increases. Now you say that after that, you how some or the other balancing yourself to go with the breath, 10 breaths, 20 breaths or 10 seconds. And then if you comes to know, I see only the middle part of the breath. What about the beginning of the breath? What about the disappearing of the breath? Your sharpness increased by thousands. Which you have to go be prepared before the breath happening. Not only you see the sun, you see the dawn. You are preparing and waiting. It's a panoramic thing to see the dawn. After the sun arisen, it's a different story. So far we have done already arisen sun. What about the arising sun? And what about the sunset? So likewise the teacher will say, okay, now you can be with the breath 10-20 minutes or 10-20 seconds or 10-20 cycles. So now go prepared. Whenever you face to face with the breath, try to catch the beginning of the breath, the end of the breath. And the other Buddha is telling, don't worry about the end. As far as you know the middle part of the breath, S-shaped curve, the middle, no, this is the bell-shaped curve. The middle, just see the beginning. Your sharpness, your brain system, so far it was working only 4%, now 100% neurobics going to work. Because you are so vigilant. So there are little bit of shaken thing, your whole soul will be shaken. And whenever you see the rising part and the breath and it is disappearing, again you find known to unknown, limited situation to the unlimited situation, self-understanding to the non-self-understanding, explainability to the unexplainability. And after that it is going to the complete chaotic, then again out-breath starts. Out-breath also has the same pattern, bell-shaped curve. When it's disappearing, complete, you are losing the tenets, you are losing the address. You feel lost, you feel outcasted, you feel no boundaries. You feel that part you can't explain because our language is only with the material part or amisha. Whenever it is going to the disappearing part or arising part, that we never used our brain. We have no language. So when that area happens, you are completely lost regarding the world. You are completely lost regarding the center. You are completely lost regarding the body. You are completely lost regarding the breath. But still there is a kind of a sustainability of the mindfulness, very beautiful. Just like you are a baby in the womb, not born yet, about to parturiate. And balance part you know by the breath, and you can see oxygen content and the carbon dioxide content, how much you are breathing and kind of thing. What about the rising part? What about the disappearing part? And that is the point you understand how much I am an ignorant. What I know is such a small fraction, and we are making so much of arrogant statements, telling this and that. So there you have to understand, still you are a beginner. No, at least you know, this much I don't know. When you are keeping the leg, you know this much is not touching. So far you was trying to see what is touching. I mean, it's good, it's a way, the formal education, lenient education. But now it is going to teach, this is touching, that is why the non-touching areas are very discreet with respect to the touching. So whenever you are in the right leg and you know the arch is not touching, in between the fingers and the ball is not touching, and what about the left leg? Unconcerned. What about the rest of your body part? You don't know. What about the center? You don't know. What about the whole world? So you're almost in the world, but as if you are not in the world like. Being here itself, now it's gone. So still you see, such a refinement of the Dhamma, such a refinement of thing, the Buddha called. Buddha is already experienced. At the beginning, he don't give that kind of serious questions. He says, just learn how to add, how to subtract, how to multiply, how to divide. But now you go to the matrix. Now you go to higher advanced mathematics. So when you go there, it is always within your capacity. So when you are reading with that kind of a knowledge about Sutta Satipatthana or Nibbana Patisangita Desana or Sutta Nipata, you see each and everything is been recorded. But as the beginner, when you are learning as a Sunday school girl or boy, you can't understand him because you have no touch, because you have no gone into that. So therefore, the present knowledge of Dhamma is quite enough for us to understand, enough for us to launch, enough for us to go ahead. But don't claim that I know. So present day education always give a title for you. You are in the grade 7, 8, 9, 10, ordinary level, advanced level, BS, PS, MSc. There's nothing such a thing in this development. So with our education system, we are used to ask, am I enlightened now? Am I with the Sotapanna level now? Am I really in Vipassana now? Is it Samatha or Vipassana? So who the hell can give a yes or no answer? Does it make an impediment for you? You have to say, so far so good, please carry on. Refining. So if you are expecting any kind of a result, utterly you will, desperately you will be in tension. Then you understand this desperation and the tension is not due to the Dhamma, not due to the Buddha. Because of your result-oriented nature, that is what they inscript in our brain, according to the present-day education. What a crime at the grade 5, these young children put into that competitive exam and they are utterly desperate. This is a real playful time. It's become mother's exam now, not the children exam. Everything pushing. So definitely they hate parents, 100%. And when they are hating parents and when they are hating the teachers, teachers get tension and frustration in the classroom. Don't think it is no answer. Yeah, there is an answer. The parents must understand mindfulness. Teachers must understand mindfulness. Mindfulness must be taught in a pragmatic way. Then you can see a way out. Are we going to make whole world Buddhism? So New Zealand watchdog organization told, you must never give mindfulness as a subject in the national school in our government. This is a conspiracy to make the whole world Buddhist. I am repeating. In New Zealand government is being advised by the watchdogs by religion. He says, you can't make a subject like mindfulness of the national schools because they are making everyone Buddhist. So my friend sent me that article telling, please be aware, we can't prescribe mindfulness for each and everyone. So it make like you are changing the religion. Then I told her, we are lucky in the society today. The America is teaching. British governments understood that mindful nation problem. And even in New Zealand, they accept mindfulness, no, even though not international level, not into the national schools. So therefore it is coming. So person like me can't give that kind of atmosphere. Now we are making use the atmosphere. We are making use the atmosphere. We are not telling everyone must do, but I am telling for this is tension and frustration, there's a universal answer. So then again comes, there's an article telling, in Sri Lanka, people teaching mindful in a simple way, they are going to get rid of Nibbana from the Buddhism. Nibbana away from Buddhism and Buddhism away from Nibbana. Because they are making it a school subject. That's the other extreme. So we have to go in between. We give, there is a universal answer. If you wish to have solution, why don't you come and do? It is immaterial whether Buddhist or not. Immaterial you have thoroughly understand the Buddha or not. It is immaterial to understand the whole Dhamma. This is access, this is the mind, this is the bare attention. Please carry on. So we will say that myself is now so much of years old and practice still. I have to be like a beginner for the next sitting. Because still there may be some misunderstanding in my Dhamma and wrong views. Because these wrong views and misunderstanding happening only to the scholars, only to the practicing people. The thuggeries and robbers and womanizers, they don't care. They don't have that kind of misunderstanding. They don't have wrong views. They don't know what is wrong view is. So therefore when you are practicing, you have to take one approach is, daily you have to listen and give new ways in. By teaching of the Buddha, lucky enough, we have 15,000 plus thousand suttas. Some are appropriate for the desirable characters or the desire-based characters. Some are good for the hate-based characters. Some are good for ignorant-based. And there are some personality traits. So accordingly you have to do. So in a flow like this, we are just giving a common sermon, and I can't expect everyone to have same benefits or equal benefits. But you must know the Dhamma is there, you have to absorb selectively, and that is what it happens. And how does it affects next time to go to the mindfulness and be more mindful with the breath, or more number of steps. And whether it is contributive to the samatha, contributive to the vipassana, it doesn't matter. As far as the mindfulness is going, it gives us such a guardian, such a protection. It expands the possibilities. But more and more possibility given, the foolish people get entangled with the complex situations. So Dhamma is not to give that complexity. You give more and more opportunities, so you have the more wider scope. The Buddha is giving an example. I think it will help. Imagine when you are coming here, you are passing this paddy field, and in the paddy field, once in a way, when they harvested, they start vegetable gardens, small plots. So whenever cattle released to the field, if there is no cowboy or person to look after, they are always going to go to the vegetable plots. So that farmers will come and damage the cows, so they will blame the cowboy. So the cowboy has to take care not to go into the vegetable plots, but to eat in the surrounding areas and the buns and kind of thing. No harm. Because the cows can see these things are well fertilized and irrigated, they are very flushing. But the other things are a little dry. So their tendency is to go and eat the vegetable. And someone has to take care. The farmer will not resist. So that is what the beginner's mind, you have to let the mind be free on these areas, but don't let that is going to the vegetable gardens. But then the Buddha is asking that the farmer came and harvested the vegetable garden and then break the fences. And then the cowboy is more released. It can either let the cows to eat the other areas, or even in this, the remaining vegetable plants, no harm. So likewise, when the meditation goes higher and higher, your restrictions reduces. Your mind is become more protected with the mindfulness, and it is plunging into the more and more into the sap of the Dhamma. There, your morality, your moral responsibilities, you understand. There should not have someone behind with the cane and to punish you. Earlier it is, but now you yourself come into that kind of a discipline, kind of a restraint, and that is the way the bodily evolution, bodily understanding, and see the consequences, not to the cowboy, but to the herd itself will understand. So that is the relationship between the Buddhist monastic code as well as the normal suttas. More you practice, you understand the comfort zone. You understand the least frictional path. And it's a vast area. At the beginning it is very, very, restricted, restrained. Sila restraint, samadhi restraint, panya restraint. More and more you develop the mindfulness itself is taking care. You can really read in the Anapanasati Sutta how the Buddha is explaining. As you practice, you are not shackled, you are not hindered, you are not with the brake pedals. You just go into the more openness. So when it is happening, you get the new dimension about the Buddha is, how the Buddha is, how the Dhamma is. At the beginning you feel the Buddha as a disciplinarian, a person with regimentation, and understand the Dhamma appear like a very tedious learning, as far as it is academic. But when it's become internalized, you feel, you become a Dhamma embodiment. Your body itself, your mind itself, your words itself come up to a certain amount of culturing or developing, becoming socialized. Even if you are sitting in a kuti, even if you are sitting in a separate house, this is happening. So therefore Dhamma can be misunderstood, Dhamma can be misinterpreted, no harm. And you must know, that is why the Buddha is telling, if it is misinterpreted, the Buddha is there, yes, Dhamma is there, yes, but you in a wrong way. Do it in again and again. Learning it again and again. So that is the way learning. And then you have the grammar, you have to understand the presentation, context, syntax, the time where the Buddha was there, all these things will be matter to the latter part of your meditative life. But at the beginning, don't worry. You must not have Dhammacharya Vibhagya or something like that to start with. So when I started, I don't know what's a good term to explain my situation. So last time when the Venerable Dhammika is talking, one person told, very good talk, Bhante, yes, but you must have the complete discipline, sila, before going to the samadhi, and full samadhi should have before going to vipassana. And I also was listening, I told Bhante, please rescue me. When I come to you, I am just an aboriginal. I am like the Vedda fellow. I have no any discipline. I was not happy to accept the precepts also, but why should I? But you gave me in such a way, no harm, still you can be mindful. Mindful about what? You are doing all the naughty things. I knew only 10 precepts, I have already 10 broken. Had I known 227, all would have tested and broken. No harm. And on top of that, few days time, I told him, Bhante, I want to become a monk. Ha! You going to become a monk? That will be the end of the sasana. Don't do it. Practice like a lay person till you feel becoming a monk or not is equal. I call that is the pragmatic way of presenting to a young man. And now I am an old fellow. So therefore, don't put this kind of restraint. You have to just be mindful and see who you are. At the outset, you can't understand. You have to keep on practicing, knowing it is wrong. Knowing it is recovering. It's so much of compassion, so much of time up to your deathbed, the refinement can happen. For that, the humbleness, or we call innocence, is the matter. So, Thomas Merton was a Trappist monk in Christian, and he has been practicing so hard. And he was a prolific writer. And while practicing, he is, according to his own practice, the Trappist, there is one sect in anti-Christianity or Baptist sect. And practicing, one day he met, after a long time of practicing, a Zen master. And he found the master has very shortcuts. And he practiced, he came to, he wanted to come to Sri Lanka. He went to Anuradhapura and he saw the big statue of the Buddha, the standing, lying down and practicing. He says, by looking, I got enlightened. Within 1 week, he went to Thailand. He got on 660 voltage and he died. Big house, such a prolific writer, and he became this and that. And now, every book has been now published. Trappist monk, Thomas Merton, he says, the whole Buddhism is simply innocence. You have to be just innocent. You have to be just a beginner. Then Dhamma is there. So that is why it is easy for the young children, because their mind is not square yet. It's just flexible. So still you can be the childlike. And I had I was of course 26, 30 years like old, but in front of my teachers, I had my quality I can understand, because I am a rascal, I am a culprit, I am doing any kind of thing. So I was so happy they accepted me as a human to their discussions. I thought I will be kicked off. Worth it is to have. So therefore I have my simplicity, I think so. Unassuming nature. It's a must. So the second quality Buddha says, if you are arrogant, if you are not listening to the teacher, and if you are going to teach the teacher, then very difficult for a teacher. Even if you know, even the teacher knows what to do, he is hesitant to do it, because you are not innocent enough. You are not simple enough. So that is a very difficult part. Pandita Sayadaw says, the Buddha to be, the Buddha Bodhisattva, he practiced all the possible ways. If a disciple become arrogant, still if I am compassionate, what should I do? He wanted to assume all the qualities. Even the other person is not accepting me, even other person is arrogant, I will never get angry. I am just mark time. I am giving him a silent sermon. One day, after finishing his bad karma, he will have kind of a accepting, as a kind of a receptive nature. Then Buddha never hesitant. He just tell. Because this arrogance, this not understanding and that not listening is not his personal meekness. Because he is brought up in such a situation, he is in that culture, so they are just simply arrogant. Present day school masters, teachers, they understand how arrogant the children are. I mean, they are not bad. So you must know how to present the Dhamma in the proper proportion, in the proper time. For that you must be like an embodiment of Dhamma, and you are just compassionate. Sometimes parents even can't take it up. Some teachers can do. Some teachers can't do, parents can do. So likewise the whole society has to understand this humbleness is completely lost when you become educated, when you become professional. If you become subject matter specialist, very difficult to communicate. But if you know it, you can just tell the teacher, yes, I have that bad character, never mind Bande. Please give me a proper time so that I can come and learn. And if I am doing something wrong, please forgive me. Likewise, we can communicate and compensate. But the Buddha, to develop in the paramis and qualities, he tried to understand all possible ways where the communication with the teacher and the disciple can be misled. So he thought, it's my mistake. Imagine. The Buddha thought the disciple can't take Dhamma, he can't communicate because it's my mistake, I will correct myself. So that is how he became a universal teacher. That's why the Buddhism became the universal religion, as to say, or teaching, because he thought it's my mistake. So put into the day-to-day activities. Imagine when you are practicing, the mind is you are supposed to keep it in the breath, or supposed to keep it with the left leg and the right leg in the instruction. So you come and complain, Bhante, I can't practice, my mind is wandering and daydreaming and fantasizing, no, blah, 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 blah. So the teacher has to say, yes, that is not on you. Some people are wandering due to the thought, some people are due to sounds, some people are due to pain, never mind. Not everything is equal. See which one is disturbing you. Don't try to push it out. Try to understand what is the most disturbing thing. It is specific to you. It is specific to time. It is specific to your posture. So don't try to get rid of. Just understand what is the disturbing. So if you are a obedient one, he will come and report, mine is due to the thinking. Usually, the younger generation, that is the main thing. When you become old, the pain. When you are in a disturbing society, say there is sounds. But we are sitting in the same floor. Not everyone is complaining the single thing. We complain different things. Why? We select our distraction. We individually select our distraction, and it's a characteristic, it is a trend. So you have to look into the matter, you just put into the object and see how often it is distracted and what is the main cause. Sometimes have a mixture. And if she is bold enough to report, Bhante, this always it's a thinking, daydreaming, fabrication, storytelling. Or sometimes my back pain and the knee pain and the neck pain. Make it very big when you are telling about the distraction. Or sounds, because the clock is always tick, 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 tick. I can't meditate. Monkeys are shouting, I can't meditate. So now teacher is directing he or she to understand the impediments. Then he says, has to tell, even it is distracted, darling, your breathing is not stopped. While in the distraction, can you see you are not dead? While in the distraction, can you see whether you are not sleeping? While in the distraction, can you see you are not unconscious? Very difficult. But they wanted to complain the distraction. So you have to say, anyway, you have a primary object. While walking, if you are distracted with the sounds, are you stopped walking? No. Still the robot is walking. Can you occasionally have a look about the distracting body is, distracting mind is still walking? Then who is walking and who is distracted? While sitting, if the distraction happens, does that breathing stops? No. I mean, I am telling no, I am asking you. And can you look at it? That is exactly vipassana. So Pandita Sayadaw is giving step by step. Then he says, if that is not been correctly done by the disciple, it's utterly the teacher's mistake. Because it is not being taught in the schools, even not in the sports, even not in the hobbies. So therefore, teacher must understand, if the disciple is going wrong, even the Buddha is there, even the Dhamma is there. Because they have mistaken, decoded in the wrong way. And they have not been listening. Never mind, it's a mistake of the teacher. So you have to take another step and see, if the disciple is behaving like that, what is the message to me? For that, I am going to stop the talk. For that, you must try to teach whatever the little thing you know to another person. There you will understand the story. Earlier I used to say, don't teach because you are immature. But in Satipathala we say, even if you can sit for 1 minute, please try to explain it to someone. You will find the difficulty. Your little achievement is such a big pinnacle. And share it with others. So more you teach, you will get the reinforcement, you will get the galvanizing effect of the simple thing, the tiny little thing. And that is the way it is getting reinforced. Therefore, Buddha is there, Dhamma is there. You have to understand, you have decoded in the wrong way, you have interpreted in the wrong way, no harm. And the second thing is, you are so arrogant. You are not ready to listen. You are asking the shortest cut to go there. Directly remove about the thinking. How to get rid of sounds. How to get rid of pain. I mean, simply if you put into death, everything stops. If I can kill you, there are onward no sounds to you. No pain. No thoughts. But that is not the way. While heavily living under your very nose, you can practice it. If you are not practicing, if I am to quote to Pandita Sayadaw, it is an utter mistake of the teacher. Then you can understand who the Buddha is. Then you can understand what the Dhamma is. Then you can understand how much I was not aware of the real Dhamma, and I was still arrogant, but no harm. From now onward to the death, you have time to reconsider. Oh, it is a very well term, is disciple. Disciple is a disciplining. The term coming from the disciple. So we are disciples. We are sharing each other, we are helping each other. So therefore the very little thing you know by now is quite enough. Because so much of ignorant people right now. And they are very arrogant. They are very learned. But learned on the bullshit. They don't know how it is leading to the purification. They don't know how it is leading to the renunciation, the disenchantment. So therefore, the little thing you know, try to share with others. I mean, not to disturb your practice. And then you will understand how does the Buddha did such a universal job. And still the Dhamma is living. I am the example. Not the disciple, not the teacher, nothing. I am the example. It's a living example. Oh, your life and your behavior is become a silent sermon. With that kind of an outlook, we can't say dispensation is old age or ruin. No, it is lively, so lively. I pass the responsibilities to your shoulder. Take now onward to make the Buddha alive. Make the Dhamma alive. You are the single army, one-man army. I hope it will be encouraging you to put each and every thought moment to the practice. With that wish, I would like to sum up today's talk.